Welcome back to Anxiety Chats. Today we have another anonymous story.
We will be talking about panic attacks and how this person got through panic being the bridesmaid at a wedding.
As always, if you would like to be involved with us at Anxiety Chats, you can send us your anonymous story through the link in our description.
Or you can come on the podcast to chat with us in person. Go to the description of wherever you are listening to this podcast.
I'm really excited for this story. When I first read it, it's something that I definitely relate to. This story is just written so well. So we love this story, and talking about panic attacks, I love talking about panic attacks because I think we need to talk about it more. I think it's something we don't talk about enough. So I am excited to read this one, hear what people think about it too. So let's get into the story. September 2022. I'm at my best friend's wedding. I'm maid of honour, and I'm in the front row of a packed church listening to the minister droning on and on about the secret to a long marriage. It's a heat wave, and I'm wearing a pink tulle dress that suddenly feels restrictive and too hot. It's the classic situation, being somewhere I can't leave or where it would be embarrassing to do so. I can feel the panic rising in me, my palms sweating, my heart racing, and my vision narrowing. I feel unreal, detached from my surroundings, and as if I'm trapped behind a thick pane of glass. My eyes are darting about the room, working out the quickest and least obvious way to escape. The minister eventually finishes his talk, and although I have no idea what he's been saying, the panic starts to pass, as it always does. As the congregation stands for the final hymn, my heart stops thudding in my chest. I regain a feeling in my hands, and I can breathe again. I stayed, even though everything within me was urging me to leave, to run away and not turn back. I stayed because my best friend needed me on her special day. But most of all, I stayed for me, to show myself I could do it. Within me, I already have everything I need to grapple with anxiety. And that's enough. Over the 12 years that I've suffered with panic disorder, I've missed out on a lot of things. Birthday parties, family events, job opportunities, you name it. My panic attacks got so unrelenting in 2017 that I stopped trying altogether and could barely leave my house. Life became very safe, predictable, and mundane. But in all honesty, it was preferable to the agonizing physical symptoms of panic, the derealization I experienced when facing my fears, and the shame I felt for being unable to function as a normal person in her early 20s. I could no longer drive, I couldn't go to the shops, I couldn't meet friends for coffee, or even walk my dog. Before long, even visiting my grandparents close by became too much.
If I could tell that version of me how far she would progress by 2022, I don't think she would believe it. With a lot of hard work, determination, and willingness to tolerate anxiety symptoms, I have opened up my world again. I can drive locally, I can go to small shops, still working in big supermarkets, which, in my opinion, are the most anxiety unfriendly places on earth. I can socialize with friends and walk my dog on the mountain. I have secured a full-time job and haven't had to call in sick once in the 7 months I've worked there. I attended my grandfather's funeral an hour away. I'm in the process of buying my first house, where I'll be living alone, away from my parents, for the first time in 5 years. This isn't to say that my anxiety is behind me. I still have a way to go, and some days I resist the feelings. Actually, recently my anxiety has reared its ugly head on more days that it hasn't, and I have felt myself slowly slipping backwards into the too easy pattern of staying in my comfort zone, canceling on friends, and making excuses when things feel too much. In times like this, I have to remind myself on my strength in tolerating the discomfort, for not getting up and leaving when everything in my body is telling me to, for pushing myself out the door when I tell myself I can't, not today. I'll try again tomorrow. I have to picture that person in church a month ago, who against all odds stayed. I can do it. I am more than my anxiety.
Oh, I love that
So
story.
good.
It's just like
I love
incredible.
that story.
Like,
Yeah, so beautiful. And I can totally feel her. I think you experience those too. Panic attacks suck because you kind of lose control of yourself, of
mhm.
your body, It's kind of like your body taking control over your brain, and even though you want it to stop,
Yeah,
you can't. You're like completely, you just have to let go and experience it, and in some situations you can control it, but in some others you really can't. It can get really bad
definitely.
sometimes.
And I think panic attacks are kind of described as the fear of fear. So it's almost like you're not scared necessarily of the thing you were scared of in the beginning. You're scared of having a panic attack, and that's what makes you not want to do things, not want to leave the house, because you're so scared of the physical symptoms of panic. And that's definitely what I experience every day. And I'm so glad
Hmm.
that, this person felt able to send this story, because personally, that has made me feel more seen. And like, I think it's hard for people with agoraphobia or panic disorder to meet each other, because obviously we have agoraphobia and panic disorder. So I think the internet is a beautiful thing for this, being able to actually hear other people's
Hmm.
stories. And I actually am going to be a bridesmaid at my best friend's wedding too in April next year, and I'm absolutely terrified. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
how
so lovely,
nice.
and she's the nicest woman, like my best friend ever, and she's just honestly incredible. And to the point that she's like, if you don't come, that's totally okay. Like, don't worry about it. But obviously, I want to be there for her, and I want to see
How lovely of
a
her to
hundred percent.
understand.
But I want to see her have the happiest day of her life and marry her husband, because he's lovely too. And but anxiety can make you almost selfish, because you can't think of anything other than how you will cope,
Yeah.
and you feel selfish, you feel like you're putting yourself first. But
Hmm.
anxiety sometimes doesn't let you put other people first. You can't kind of reason with your anxiety and say, but I really want to. Anxiety's like, quite strict.
Totally. I think and it's so interesting how you can get panic attacks out of, for example, you experience agoraphobia, right? And like there are moments I'm sure that trigger that, and you're like, okay, I really need to like completely freak out, but you kind of try to control it, and you
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can't, like in my case. And I don't know what is about like events like this, because I am
Mm-hmm.
claustrophobic. I've learned to control it, but in some, there have been moments where events, formal events, or like ceremonies, or just going to
Mm.
mass. I remember going to mass in school would give me the biggest like I can't even explain it. I would be sitting listening to the priest talk, and I remember, I went to a Catholic school, so it's like they're looking at you. All the nuns are looking at you, looking at everybody, all the students, telling them to be quiet, to hush, and I'm like sweating, and I cannot explain, and I feel terrible if I get up or interrupt the mass
Mm-hmm.
or just leave. I'll get in
Mm-hmm.
trouble, I'll get yelled at, so I remember having like this fear of going to mass, because it meant that I had to sit, and sometimes I would be in the middle, so I
Oh.
had people to my right, to my left, so I would like sit and just wait and wait for people to just finish talking, and I would be like, my heartbeat would go like some. And I think one time I actually, like, it got really bad. I had to
Mm.
get up and just run, and my one of my teachers just like reached to me, like outside church, and she was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I don't know. I
Mm.
didn't know how to explain that I was having panic attacks at
Mm.
the time. I wasn't sure, that it was that. So it was like, I don't know what it is about events like this, where you,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you have to stay, and that you have to stay put for an amount of time, felt so limiting to me.
Totally.
And it was like, it's an open
A
air, but I
hundred
can
percent. And
breathe.
so interesting, because
It
my
sucks.
mum was brought up in a very similar type of school, where it was like they went to mass all the time, and same with me when I was little. But my mum said that she's never experienced panic attacks except being in mass. And I think it is that thing of, you sit down, you be quiet, you listen to the
Oh, wow.
priest, and even like getting up for communion, like having to stand in the line, and like you can't leave that line. There's no escape. And I think
Yeah.
for people with anxiety, there being no escape
Yeah.
is the scariest thing. And she said in her story, like, her eyes were darting about the room, and she was looking for
Yep.
exits, and she was thinking, how can I get out of here without people noticing? Um, I think part of it's also the pressure we put on ourselves, because I think, for me anyway, I would not care whatsoever if I saw somebody leave. I would probably think they were going to the toilet or whatever. It wouldn't be a big deal, but we put so much pressure on
Yeah,
ourselves to be conforming to the norm, I think.
totally. Sometimes we worry too much, you know, like when you see people do things, it looks normal, you know, like they have
Yeah,
to have a reason for things, you know, like, and it looks like it's not a big deal, you know, but when you do it, it's like
totally.
it's the end of the world. Everybody's
And
watching,
also,
you
I
know.
wanted to say about the story, the girl explained this amazing
Yeah.
triumph that she like managed to stay during horrible panic symptoms. And she's saying, you know, but I've still got a way to go. And I just wanted to say, if she is listening, that, you know, I hope that you can really just be in that moment and see how far you've come. Like, you couldn't leave the house before. Now you can walk your dog, you can meet your friends, you can sit in your best friend's wedding and manage to stay there. Like, I think people with anxiety, you know, we have triumphs every single day for just waking up and being alive, you know. That can be a massive triumph, and we often don't um really congratulate ourselves and just say, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, I am smashing this."
Oh, I was gonna say the same thing. You read my mind. There's a part where she says, you know, just getting up, just doing one thing every day. And I think I mentioned this in another episode, or maybe I might have said it in a story video. Like, even when you have depression, you know, like getting up from your bed is like a major
Yeah.
milestone. It's like, you know, I don't even know how to explain it. I think I tried to explain it to a friend once. You know, it's easy for people to say, oh, you know, just do that. Sometimes motivational talks fail in recognizing
Hmm.
mental health issues, um because they go like, you just gotta do this, you
Yeah.
just gotta focus, you just gotta do this, da da da, commit to yourself. And yeah, it all sounds
Hmm.
awesome in theory, but when you have depression, when you have anxiety, when it's like daunting to do things, you know, getting up and
Hmm.
going to the bathroom is a huge battle, you know. It's like it's like kind of like you're ungluing yourself, or I don't know how to say
Yes.
it, you know, from your sheets. And I saw this episode once in I don't know if you watched this HBO show,
Oh, I love
Euphoria.
it.
If you haven't, it's a little out there. It might be okay. You know how there is this one character who's like, she's obviously a drug addict and everything, but there's one episode where she's like talking about
Hmm.
going to the bathroom, and like she would rather hold her pee instead of going to the bathroom. And I was like, at the moment when I was watching that, I was like, that
Yep.
was me 10 years ago, probably. Like, it's like,
Hmm.
I don't know what it is, you know. You can't, your body is just simply not in this connection with your brain. At the same time, it's all like, I don't know. And the part where she says, you know, like, to keep myself in control, you know,
Hmm.
to control everything, to tell myself you're gonna stay, and even though you're sweating, you're probably
Yep.
about to scream, you know, like you're keeping it together. That's like, wow, that
It
honestly is
totally is.
amazing.
Yeah, I remember watching that scene in Euphoria and being like, okay, yep, I totally understand that. And she was also watching Love Island, I think, at the time. And I know for me, I have to watch things that I've seen a million times, and I have to watch things that are
Yeah,
like not things I need to really pay attention to because I can't focus. I just need, it's almost more like comfort and company rather than actually watching something.
yeah.
Um, but also, I listened to a podcast the other
Hmm.
day, and this guy was talking about
Yeah.
when his agoraphobia was so severe, leaving his bedroom to go to the bathroom made him have horrific panic attacks. And so at one point, he actually asked his parents if he could get a bedpan. He
Oh
said,
my
I need a
gosh.
bedpan. I can't make it to the toilet anymore. And that's when they said, like his parents said,
Oh,
okay, we need to do something
oh my god.
because you can't obviously have a bedpan in your room because we just can't do that. But I totally relate to that. I've never, you know, been to that side of my bed, outside my
Yeah.
bedroom being scary, but I can totally imagine getting to that place. And I think just hearing that, I was like, whoa, people have anxiety worse or just as bad as me. And that's so nice to know that we really aren't alone in this. And also, the most important thing is that people recover. people,
Mm-hmm.
if you're listening to this and you think, but my
Yeah.
anxiety is way worse than that and nobody understands
Mm-hmm.
how bad my anxiety is, people have been in that position, are in that position, and can recover from that, which is so, like, even if you think, I know there's going to be people that are thinking, but my anxiety is just too bad. Honestly, everyone can recover from it.
I totally agree. I think anxiety, my therapist told me this the other day, and I thought I loved the way she put it, but anxiety can manifest in different ways. It's
Yeah.
like it has different shapes and colors. It's like a whole rainbow, and in the same way, people can recover differently, and it may take, for some others, 6 months. For others, it may take a whole life,
Mm-hmm.
their whole life to manage it. For some others, it might be slow, but it's there. But you can control it. It's just that
Yeah.
it takes time sometimes for people, and it takes for others more effort. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a sacrifice to do small tasks, mundane tasks, that you do every day. Regular people, just with that have no
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, they just do it. And my friend told me this the other day. She's like, I never thought about it that way. For me to do this,
Mm-hmm.
it's so simple. It's like brushing my teeth. But for some others, it might be so difficult that you cannot get out of your head. And it makes life a little bit more hard, because you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of living in the real world, but also you're living in your own
Totally.
world. And it's like you're constantly thinking about, it's like your brain is
Mm-hmm.
always busy, talking
That's
about
amazing that,
everything.
like, I always find it
So
really cool and impressive when
yeah.
there's people that have never experienced, depression or anxiety or any form of kind of mental health problem, and they still really get it. And I've got a few friends like that haven't like, they have no idea what I mean. They've never had a panic attack or whatever, but they understand. They have that much empathy that they can just understand and be really
Mm-hmm.
kind. Like my friend I was just talking about that is getting married, she just has so much empathy, and I think that's what we need more of. She's just like, if you come, you come. If you don't, you don't. It's
Mm-hmm.
fine. Like, you're still my bridesmaid, and that that's just what we need more of.
Yeah, that's so lovely. I think empathy is one thing. It's a huge thing, especially because it can also
Mm-hmm.
be hard, I assume, to not see it, from the other
Yeah.
side of the spectrum. Like you just see this person saying he or she is experiencing all these things, it's not
Mm-hmm.
tangible. It's not like you can see
Mm-hmm.
it. Like when you get the chicken pox, you see it, in the face, and you see it
Yeah.
manifested in the body, but when it's mental health, it's like you really don't see it. How do you
Yeah.
believe it? How do and people sometimes are able to
Mm.
mask their symptoms really well. They put on it's kind of like you put on a mask. I put on makeup every day to get out of my house. You put on a mask and everything may seem fine, but then you go home and it's like
Yeah.
hell. So how do you identify? I assume it can be hard too, but the word that you said is really important, empathy. To You don't know, but you try to put yourself in the shoes of the
Totally.
other person.
Also, like, thinking about the story again, like, something that could be helpful for anybody listening that is experiencing the same things. Um, I'm reading a book right now that's very old. So it's very old. Well, I say very old. That's probably, it's not that old. It was written in like the 70s or something, but it's old in terms of language. Like, it's very sexist. It's like a book that's like, probably
Hmm.
wouldn't be recommended now, but the actual contents in the book is incredible. And it's called Claire. The woman who wrote them is called Claire Weeks, and she's a doctor. And they have been helping me so much. She talks about like panic attacks and the
Mm.
symptoms and the sensations of panic attacks. And the main piece of information and advice she gives is, no matter how horrible you feel, stay in the moment. Don't run. Don't try and like escape it. Just let the symptoms and the feelings wash over you, which is probably the hardest thing you could ever ask somebody to do. Is, it's, I would relate it to feeling like, when you have COVID,
Hmm.
like if you've ever had COVID or the flu, feeling like that and just pretending nothing's happening. That's how it feels. But she says this is the best way
Mm-hmm.
to overcome panic attacks and
Yeah.
anxiety, and that's what I'm trying to do at the moment.
Yeah, I love how you put it, and she put it. It's kind of like people asking you just go with the flow when you're going downhill on a roller coaster, and you're just like,
Yes.
and you just gotta let it flow. It's like it's
Yeah.
horrible. It really is. And panic attacks, in general, it's that feeling of desperation. That's the only way I can put it. Desperation, like
Yeah.
chronic desperation, just not be being helpless. Like to your own body, your own
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, everything. And sometimes you need, like I said, it depends. But it sounds good on paper. Like let it flow, like it go with the
Yeah.
flow, or experience it. But sometimes when it's like
Oh yeah.
extreme, like you do need help. Sometimes you need to be held.
Mm-hmm.
For some others, you need a plastic bag to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
For some others, is like, I remember, and this is completely out of topic, what we're discussing, but I remember having a panic attack. So when I was in college, my boyfriend and I went on a trip to Colorado. And I don't know if you know this, but Colorado is like the city of, or the state where weed is legal.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's completely legal. In Peru, that doesn't exist. So for me, it was like, wow. Even in Florida, where I was living, it was like new to me. They sell them like candy. It's like going to a convenience store for
Mm.
like weed, and they have all kinds of things, from like gummy bears to like chocolate, and it tastes really good too. Now I remember, like we were just on, I think for my birthday, we were just, there for the weekend. And I don't personally consume any weed, but I don't know what it was. I think it was because
Yeah.
we were just young and stupid, and we just wanted to have fun. We're like, oh, let's try this, let's
Mm.
try that. And then he doesn't really smoke either, but he had done it before. And I think I did it a couple times when I was younger, but it was probably not
Yeah.
the right way. I don't know, I just didn't feel the effects. But this time, I remember eating like a gummy bear, and fast forward an hour, not even, I think 30 minutes. And my therapist told me, like, this probably wasn't good for you, because since you are
Yes.
claustrophobic, and the effects of weed is that you start kind of like, you go into this spectrum, this world of like just
Yeah.
sensations, and you cannot get out of until the effects wear off. You're gonna be stuck in your
Yes.
brain. And that's what happened. And I remember just like completely having the
Oh.
worst panic attack, to the point where I was like, what
Mm-hmm.
do you call, like, hyperventilating. Like I would see everything 3 times. Like my boyfriend would talk to me, and then I would see it 1, 2, 3, and then everything, and I was like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
That was my thought. I need to get out of here. I wanted to stop, and I couldn't. Everything was just like I was having the strongest
Oh.
effect. I didn't know these gummy bears were like dead.
Well, you wouldn't think it.
deadly. Oh my god! I remember he. No, yeah, it was the stupidest thing, and I didn't know either. So my boyfriend goes like, "Oh, I heard that putting like pepper in your tongue can like minimize the symptoms." I don't know if he was right or wrong. He was probably, just speculating or doing what somebody told him. So I was walking around in the Airbnb just putting pepper, and I couldn't feel
Oh.
it either. And, it started getting worse, because I could feel like
Yes.
my blood, like all my veins, I could feel
Totally.
them. Like I could feel everything, like my blood going through my veins, through my heart, and I was like, I needed to stop. And what he did is
Mm-hmm.
just wrap me in a blanket, put me in the couch, and just
Oh.
like pat my head, it's gonna be fine. It's good. And that was helping me a lot, because I was like, I was, I was freaking out. And he told me, if you don't calm down, I'm gonna have to take you to the hospital. You're gonna have a heart attack at this rate. Because I was going like, I was completely. That's, I think, one time that I completely lost control. I couldn't control myself. I was just like sweating. I looked like I had taken a shower. So all he managed to do because he couldn't control me. He couldn't really do anything. He couldn't give me anything. And it was nighttime already. So he just wrapped me like a burrito in a blanket. And all he did the entire night, and I bless his heart, the entire time, he was just patting my
Oh,
head and like, it's going to be fine. He put like on soothing music until I fell asleep. And then I woke up and I was like, what the hell was that? I
it
was
just
so scared.
honestly, it is literally.
It was horrible.
I've never experienced anything as horrible as the panic attack sensations. And really interestingly, what you just said in the book I'm reading just now, she talks about people that have
Yeah.
panic attacks and panic disorder and disordered anxiety in general. They like most of the problem is that they are severely sensitized, and so they feel every sensation in their body, like you were just saying about being able to feel your veins and being able to feel your blood. Like people that don't have anxiety, I think would probably be able to
Mm-hmm.
feel it as well, but they just don't
Yeah.
notice because they just don't worry about it, you know. Or like they feel their tummy, like
Right.
if I die,
Yeah.
like when I feel
Yeah.
full, I feel really anxious because I'm like, oh my god, my tummy feels full and it feels horrible. But most people that feel full are just like, oh, I feel full, you know.
Yeah, totally. Like people
Yeah,
enjoy it, like my cousin, I think she does it recreationally and she enjoys it, and I'm like, I cannot, I definitely cannot
I'm
be
the
doing
same.
drugs. I told my mom that once. You don't have to worry about me doing drugs because I can't lose control of my body. I just
Hmm.
can't, because when I do, I enter
Yep,
into this panic mode, of not having control, and it like I lose my
totally.
shit, like I
It's
completely
interesting.
lose it. So I told her, you don't have to worry about me not
Me
being
too. Like
being
I'm
in
the exact
drugs.
same. I had like a very similar experience smoking weed for the first time when I was a teenager, and like everyone else was really enjoying it. And some people that have anxiety do really enjoy it, and it really helps them. But I'm the same. I don't drink any alcohol or take any drugs because I'm just like, if
Mm.
anything alters me, my whole body feels it. Like I have a hangover for like a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Oh,
worth it.
totally. It's so bad. It's so bad. And I try to explain to my friends, no, it's not at all. When I have friends, I have the kind of friends that understand, and that kind of friends that go like, oh, come on, just one drink, just one. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you don't get it. I cannot lose. I try to explain it to them, like I try to sound a little bit
Mm.
more mindful about it, like it's all mindfulness,
Yeah.
it's my body, my health, but in reality, I really
Yep.
cannot lose control of my body,
Me too.
like of my senses. And because when that
Yeah.
happens, it's like, forget about it. I'll lose control.
100%. And I,
It's so interesting. I
yeah,
just thought like how panic attacks are about having control of your body,
totally. And
pretty
I think
much.
recovery and getting better from panic attacks and panic disorder and stuff is the understanding and realization that you can't always control the things that happen in your body, and that's okay. Like you, like any panic attack you ever have, it will be
Yeah.
over. You
Mm-hmm.
just need to wait it out. And it's the hardest thing ever to say. I'm obviously definitely not
Mm-hmm.
completely better from it, but I'm really trying to like be in that mindset and every day just remind myself, you know, panic attack symptoms feel dangerous and horrible, but they're not dangerous. They can never actually harm you. You can't, nobody's ever died from a
Mm-hmm.
panic attack. It feels uncomfortable and yucky, but you can get through
Mm-hmm.
every single one of them.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell myself every day. And I think every day it's going in a little bit more. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. Um, and this story was just so, so great. Like, I am
Mm-hmm.
so proud of the person that sent the story in. I just, honestly, it's just so incredible. And this person, I bet, still feels like they've not come far enough and they're still not enough and everyone else can still do loads of things that they can't do. That's okay. You're in a perfectly great situation. And it might be hard some days, but
Mm-hmm.
anxiety chats anyway, we are so proud of you because this is just amazing.
Yeah, other people may not get it, but
a
we
hundred
get it.
percent.
That's major work. That's a big milestone.
And thank you for
Yeah,
taking the time.
I love it. I
Me
love this
too.
story. How
Thank you so
wonderful.
much for taking the time to send the story in. If you would like to send your story in, We would absolutely love to read your story. There's information in the description of wherever you're listening to this of how you can get involved and send us your story, or come on and chat to us because we're nice and friendly and we'll have a good old time talking about anxiety. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode, and we will see you soon.